Hello and welcome to Confidence for Families and Individuals with ASD. My name is Ian Thompson. Who am I? I'm a licensed professional counselor with a specialty in neurodevelopmental disorders. That means autism and ADHD. It wasn't a specialty that I necessarily sought out, but individuals who are neurodivergent sought me out. It seemed to just click with me, and there's personal reasons for that, but I have ultimately found myself learning a significant amount of tips and tricks and different walks of life of people who are neurodevelopmentally disabled in some way to help them in a way that lots of people tell me no one else ever could. So that's why I put that as a specialty and why I'm very passionate about it. I'm able to practice this because I'm a co-owner of Third Coast Counseling and Wellness. It's a private practice that I started about 5 years ago, just before the COVID pandemic started. And I've been enjoying it ever since. We're on the border of the Woodlands and Spring, and we see thousands of people a year and can pretty much cover anything that walks through our doors. So I'm very proud to have helped build that. I'm also a father and husband. You can see a picture of me and my 1-year-old at the bottom right there. And I'm also a very proud nerd. Everything from Star Wars to Dungeons and Dragons and video games. It's probably no surprise to many of you watching this that helps me connect with a lot of people who are neurodivergent. And 'cause we all seem to gravitate towards those kinds of more nerdy facets of life. So I'm going to start with personal confidence. I wanted to start with this because those of you who are watching this who are on the spectrum may be wanting to know, what can I do, Ian, to build up my personal confidence? I know what my parents tell me to do, or what my family has told me to do, maybe what my friends tell me to do. What can I do personally? The first thing I start with is reach out. Find people who think like you, who share your hobbies, either current hobbies or potentially future hobbies that you could pick up. I've seen lots of people who they tell me, Ian, I don't have a lot of friends. What do I do? Where do I find these people? And I say, well, the things that you may have been thinking about but never have necessarily tried, maybe a Dungeons and Dragons group, maybe a board game group that maybe meets at a local cafe or a library. There's a place called meetup.com that you can find pretty much anything about any hobby. There's a group of people who are meeting up for it. I tell people, start there. Look for people who share these things. And be brave and try it out. You never know what will happen. At first, it may be a little scary, but if it seems like it was possible for you to go a second, third, or even a fourth time, you should try it. The second thing is push yourself. Even if you didn't like something in the past, I say try new things constantly. It especially helps if you make it your idea. For instance, you could not like a certain food for most of your life, and maybe you tried it a couple of times, and you still didn't like it. Then I say, the next time when you're able to make it yourself, try it. Try cooking the food that you didn't like before. Try even searching for recipes or a way to make it that makes it more palatable. Most vegetables with enough salt and butter can taste really good. And take it from somebody who didn't like vegetables most of their life. Another example is you can go places that you never thought possible, but maybe if you plan the trip yourself. I had a young man who was seeing me, and he was very nervous in most public places. Everything from the community college that he went to the mall, movie theater, sporting events that his family would ask him to go to, things like that. Very afraid. But it was very interesting. This one summer, he went to Disneyland with his family. And this is a place that he had been wanting to go to for a very long time because lots of his shows that he liked to watch were part of the Disney family. Well, he researched lots of these things, and his family allowed the very first day for him to be the leader. He told the family all of the plans that he had discovered and where they were going to go and what places to eat, and he had set up this whole schedule. They followed it. Well, when they came back, they said the Disney magic had rubbed off on him, that he became an almost unrecognizable person with the amount of confidence that he had. Let's go here. Let's do this. He had the confidence that you would expect in the most confident people you know walking around that place. And he didn't have to be the leader every day. It was just initially. And so I tell people, make it your idea, research it and figure it out and be the leader. Finally, build a sense of self. Figure out what you want to do in life. One of the best ways to combat apathy and depression is to live a goal-based life. You can ask yourself something like, what do I want? This can go from careers to college. Those would be long-term goals, to short-term goals. Like, what do I want to do today? Maybe this hour, maybe the next 5 minutes. What do I want to do? Ask yourself that so that you're not just being driven by your pure impulse, which may lead you to a stagnant life, something you're familiar with and you've been doing a long time, but it's not necessarily satisfying. Okay, that was personal confidence. Let's move on now to confidence for parents. So you parents who are listening in, first thing I wanted to mention is that ASD minds mature differently. And whenever I say ASD, that means autism spectrum disorder. So just so we're on the same page with the acronym, I tell parents, let go of the norms and let's explore with the kid that you have, not the kid that you want. ASD minds mature at different rates. You may see some kids that have a maturity in some areas well above their age range. But then maybe in others, it may be lacking and trailing behind their age peers. So meet your child where they're at. The next one is challenge them with love. If your child wants a new responsibility, create a plan to let them try it. Be extremely detailed here. There should be no surprise situations for either you or for your kid, within reason. I know we can't plan for everything. And then while you're discussing this, talk to them about the future of them if they're successful, and also the future as if they're not. Just because you are letting your child have, for example, a new experience with controlling their own electronic time on weekdays. Most parents tell me, Ian, I don't know what to do with my kid after school lets out. They have chores and homework, but electronics are so distracting and they get so hooked on it that it's impossible to pry them away. So my goal for my solution for this was to say no electronics on the weekdays. But then I see my kid just moping around. They're constantly bored. They're bugging me or their siblings. They don't seem to be the child that I have seen them be in the past, where they're happy. So I tell them, work with your child then. Talk to them about, okay, let's talk about you being a little bit older now and you're able to control maybe some of your electronic use that you couldn't before. Let's say that you get 30 minutes of electronic time after school. Now, what should happen with those 30 minutes? At first, maybe you guys discuss that you use it however they want it to be. It can be right as they get home. It can be right before bedtime. It can be right after dinner. It can be right before dinner. Whatever the time frame is, see how it works. Talk to them about the consequences of it not working out. Would be something like they have their 30 minutes, but then they come begging for more. They get home, they get on it, and then they come screaming, "Mom, Dad, give me more time, please, please." Well, that may be something that you can plan for and tell them while you're making this plan of giving them this extra responsibility. You can tell them, hey, if you can't put it away and appreciate the 30 minutes that you have, if there's ever any fighting or any begging for more time right then and there on that day, then we'll consider that not being ready for it, because we can't have it be a cause of more fighting. That would defeat the purpose. And most kids would actually agree with that. So that's how you challenge with love, plan for the successes and the possible failures. If it doesn't work out now, you can always try it again. Maybe in a month, 6 months, make a timeline so that your child can keep practicing and showing you what they have learned in that time. Okay. Final piece on this page is individuals with ASD will rise to the occasion, but we have to give them those chances. Most kids with ASD love efficiency. It's not completely standard across everybody. Not everybody has that trait. But I would say the vast majority of people that I meet who either know someone who's on the spectrum or individuals on the spectrum, a lot of their personality can be boiled down to efficiency. Why would I do chores if I'm able to ignore them long enough that somebody else will do them? That's efficient for me because I will be able to go do more things on my time, more of my hobbies. I can build more, I can play more. So in a way, what most people could perceive as laziness or incompetence might actually be a calculated, rational conclusion that your child made. I want you to think about that. And if we can see it from that point of view, maybe the conversation you have with your child can be different. Talk to them maybe about the efficiency of a family unit versus individuals. Talk to them about how society works better when those of us work together. When we take just the minute moments to pick something up and put them away or throw them in the trash or do something for somebody else. How much time that can save us as a whole, because if we do it for them, then they will do it for us. We'll have that reciprocity. So I challenge people to put their kids into situations where their kids can be maybe a little bit more mature than even kids their own age. I had a parent, a couple that was telling me that they were deathly afraid of their daughter who was in senior in high school, and they were worried that she wouldn't be able to handle going off to college because anytime they left her alone, there was lots of problems. It didn't always go smoothly, and they once told me that there was a good chance that they wouldn't ever be able to have her leave the house. And so one time they were out for the evening. They let her babysit her little brother, and what ended up happening was the house alarm went off. Well, this was one of the nightmare scenarios for the parents because their house alarm automatically detected or called the police. And this was one of those scenarios where they were not sure what was going to happen if the police came and they had this adult daughter or nearing adult daughter who was babysitting her younger brother but had to deal with the police. Well, she ended up handling it better than anyone could have ever expected. She rose to the occasion. She politely waited on them. She had lights on. She answered the door and told them, "Yes, we accidentally set off the alarm. Everything's good," and took care of it. And this was counter to what her parents would have thought would have happened. And so this is just one example of how a child can rise to the occasion. You give them something, some kind of level of responsibility that you're unsure of, they might just surprise you. All right, parents, we have more for you. This next slide I've got, the first one on here is there's many alternatives to how someone lives and gets educated. In other words, there's many paths to being successful. So let's talk about some of those. You'll see on the next line, colleges with flexible degree plans and educational models. There are colleges, both private and public, that offer flexible degree plans and educational models. For example, some colleges, they don't have strict class scheduling. You can kind of mix and match classes of similar subject matter to formulate a degree plan. That way, you don't have to take the exact English courses for someone to get a degree in, let's say, mathematics. You may be able to take a variety of English-esque type courses to meet the criteria. This can help some young people who are really struggling with certain aspects of education. Maybe they really love a certain subject, and they always have, but forcing them to go into some of these other subjects that they don't like may hold them back. It may create a very stressful semester that may even cause dropout. So discuss with ASD individuals some of these alternatives that they can go to. Some colleges are also flexible in the way they evaluate people. Believe it or not, testing is not the only way to tell if somebody knows something. I know, go figure. There's lots of ways through presentation, through essay writing, and there's even creative ways through projects, or I've had people tell me that they were able to demonstrate the learning that they had through being a teacher for the day. That was something they worked out with their professor and things like that. But some of these colleges let them do that. I encourage parents to go look for places if their kids don't do well with testing. The next one is find help. Some independent skills will be such a struggle that it might sap all of the energy of the ASD person to get it done. I tell parents frequently, discuss with your child the pros and cons of somebody else doing the task for them. Typically, someone who can hold a steady job and pays for some of these life skills to be done for them is more financially independent than someone who can't hold a job, but yet they can do all of those chores. If you think about it, a lot of parents tell me, "Ian, my kid has a really hard time keeping their room clean and straight, their clothes clean. Maybe they've never cooked in all of their middle and high school years. And so they're afraid that their kid's going to starve without that." And I say, along with the previous slide of the kids raising to the occasion, they might surprise you. But if not, it may be just the autism tax that we have to pay for, to have someone come and fold and clean our laundry for us. If it allows the stress levels of the ASD person to be so low that they're able to go to college for 4 years, get a degree, or go to a trade school, pick up something that will allow them to go do a task or a job every single day, they'll be able to pay for it. It's actually not that expensive relative to a full paycheck for someone working full time to have someone come and clean your house and fold your laundry. Even if it is a chunk of your paycheck, 10, 20, 30% of your paycheck, it's better than not having any paycheck at all, because then that rest of that 70% can go towards the rent or something else. Which moves me on to my next point, that group living can provide structure, it can increase support, it can provide accountability, and it also divides up the responsibility of everyone living there. I have a really good friend of mine who works as a very successful programmer, as a contractor to the federal government, and he works every single day and makes a lot of money, but he lives with 4 other roommates in a 5-bedroom house. And he and his roommates have created chore schedules, and they all pitch in for rent, which he owns the house, but he doesn't want to pay for it himself, and so he got these roommates, and they're all friends, and they all hang out together, they eat food together, they cook, they clean, they socialize, they make house changes and repairs together. And he lives a very successful, happy life. One that he may have been very stressed out on if he had to do everything that a house takes to live alone. So I tell parents, there's many ways of living. And he may live that type of lifestyle the rest of his life, into his 40s and 50s and 60s and beyond. And that's great. So there's many different types of living situations. And don't be afraid of exploring those options. Okay, well, thank you for listening this far if you've made it. I've only scratched the surface of what's available as far as knowledge on neurodevelopmental information that's out there and what us as therapists can help people with. While I've not written my own book yet, I have some recommendations that patients have told me are the best of their kind. So the first one is, if I can just get through this, a therapist's journey and guidance through autistic shutdown and its triggers, which was written by a therapist who's on the spectrum. And the other one is more geared towards parents. It's called Quirky Yes, Hopeless No. Practical tips to help your child with Asperger's syndrome be more socially accepted. And that one is written in a way, it's very bite-sized, indexed scenarios, which you can just quickly flip through and find practical solutions, and maybe just support is what you're needing to see that I'm not the only one who has a kid that's going through this right now. And there are plenty more resources out there, but these are the two that come to mind first. And so what I can say is best of luck, and thank you for listening, and reach out if you ever need anything. Thank you so much.